Make sure you have an opportunity. Make sure you have an opportunity to answer number 4. Okay? So wherever you are on that one. If the gift box was given to you, personally, what would you hope is in it? You may not need food, at least actual food. Maybe you need spiritual food. But food might not be in your box at all. But what would you need to be in that box? So just make sure you're able to really think about that one, most especially.
We're number 4. What do you want to be in the box for? What answer? What answer? What That's the answer. I'm more.
Invite you to finish up your discussions in the next minute, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to continue to reflect on this. Which means what? All right, thank you so much for taking an opportunity to discuss with each other about this, and we hope that you will continue to discuss. There is no perfect answer to that, and the reason being is our God is so loving, so compassionate, and so merciful that in that package, in that gift, is whatever you need at that time and in that moment. And it can change, because God is everything that we need. He's the Alpha, He's the Omega. He takes us from dust to dust, and everywhere in between. And sometimes that's a very hard lesson to learn. We think we need many, many, many things. But when we sit down and reflect a little bit further, we understand that many of those things are just our wants. When our true needs are there, He is also there. He walks with us in our deepest needs and through those moments. So off to the side, there's the little gift box. And the printing was a little bit small on that, so hopefully you can all read that. But on the one side, on the left side, it says, "The gifts that God has given to me." And so in just a moment, I'm going to do a song over at the piano. And what I would like for you to do is to take that time to do one of two things. To answer those questions on that side, the gifts that God has given to you personally. And then on the right side, to think of ways that you can use those gifts. And if there is someone that you wanted to talk to about that, you can. A lot of times I put that I or we in case there's a family with children that want to talk to them about that specifically. But just individually, if you would take a moment to just pray for God to reveal the gifts that you have. Some of them are obvious to you, and you're aware, and you know, these are the gifts that I have, and these are the ways that I can use them, and so on and so forth. And so that is something for you to be able to reflect on. But a lot of times we know what our gifts are, but we don't know how to use them necessarily. And if we do know how to use them, we don't necessarily know how using them is a gift of mercy. Does that make sense? Okay? So maybe you're very funny, and people have told you all the time that you're hilarious, and you make people laugh, and that's a gift of humor, but maybe you've never thought about that gift, that ability to make people laugh, as a gift of mercy. Does that make sense? So it's just taking what you have, what you're good at. It's taking your loaf of bread or your fish or whatever it is and understanding how that becomes a gift of mercy. Maybe you're an artist. How is the gift of art able to be a gift of mercy? How do we take what we can do and take it to the next step? My little Italian grandma, my mom's mom, she loved you with food. Okay? And it was merciful. Because we would go there and we'd be starving, and she'd always have 7-Up in the basement. And she'd always cook for us. And it was such a beautiful gift that she had. She was also one of the most generous people I ever knew. If she had 2 nickels to rub together, she'd give 1 away. And that was always her. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. So when we talk about mercy starting at home, we were able to see that in our loved ones through the years, how they are merciful. And so my grandmother passed that on to my mother, and she's very generous, and she's very kind. And anyone who says that, you know, Lenny's like, say hi to your mom, I love your mom, she's a sweetheart, she's a sweetheart. I said, yeah, she's a keeper. You know, we'll keep her. And then, so I hope, you know, when somebody says to me, you look just like your mom. Well, I used to think that was funny, because I was like, was it the curly hair and the blue eyes versus the black hair and the brown eyes? Was it the 5'4" versus the 4'0"? No, I don't even know. Notice I made fun of her for her height all my life, and look what happened to me. My kids are all, you know, yeah. So, whatever that is. But then I came to consider that a true compliment. Because if I looked like her, that meant that people saw in me what they know of her. And so when people say to me, oh, you and your daughter, you know, I used to feel sorry for her because they're like, oh, you're just like your mom. And she'd be like, ah, you know. So, you know, but that's such a compliment. So if people see you, if people can see you and they say, you know, does anyone remember that old Amy Grant song, My Father's Eyes? Do you remember that? Yeah, she was one of those original Christian musicians, beautiful gift, and I loved that song. You know, that and All I Ever Have to Be Is What You Made Me, those were her 2 songs that I loved, because it talks about my Father's eyes. And could I have my Father's eyes? What a beautiful gift that is. So, in this moment, I would like for you to have a little bit of time to pray. Time that you may not always have. When we come to Mass, there's a lot of things that we get to do. We get to sing songs, we get to sit and stand and kneel and go up here and go over there and say this and read that, and you know, there's a lot going on. Beautiful, rich, wonderful, traditional things. But sometimes we don't have an opportunity just to pray or just to study the Bible. We hear the Word of God, but do we study the Bible? Do we get in there and, you know, I used to say I love to write in my Bible and wrestle with it, and you know, it's my guidebook. It's the best GPS navigation system going. It never fails. The maps are never down. The satellites are always pointing in the right direction, you know. Which brings me back to sharing with you what NUTS came to stand for. My ministry symbol is an acorn, stemming from that first story I told you. But it came to mean two things for me. First and foremost, that each and every one of us is naturally unique and truly spectacular. See what I did there? Nuts, naturally unique, truly spectacular. And that we should never underestimate the Spirit. Never underestimate the Spirit. So I wear acorns, they're on my bracelets, they're on my earrings. I wear them all the time. Some people wear crosses, I got those too. But I wear the acorns to remind me to never underestimate the Spirit. What the Spirit can do through me, in spite of me, because of me, around me. When we allow Him to be everything we need, everything that we need in that gift, as we saw in the play. So take a few moments just to pray and reflect, and I'm going to sing this song for you. We're going to clear out, and not yet, after this. And this song is called Everything We Need, and I'm going to play it over here because I want you to be able to not look at me, not look at the family, not look at anything, but just really to reflect on Jesus, understanding and realizing the sacrifice that He made for us, that great gift, and how it translates to us, and what He has given us to share with others. You are glorious, you are wonderful. I'm hoping and praying that whatever it is that you came here tonight needing, that you were able to find that in the mercy of Jesus and his great sacrifice for us. And that when you leave here tonight, which is not time yet, sorry, but when you leave here tonight, that you will take that with you outside these doors. Because the answer to that question, why do you ever leave? If you truly believe that is the body and blood of Jesus, why do you ever leave? We leave because that is our calling. It is our calling to be fed and nourished by a God who loves us that much. And then to take that and share it with others. To be the gift of mercy to others. If we take that and we never share it with anybody else, then we are not being the merciful people that we are called to be. Amen? Amen. So I wanted to share with you just a funny little story about a time when I did not always love my sacraments. Okay? And the one I didn't like the most was the sacrament of reconciliation. Somebody's like, I believe it. Okay? So that one is the hardest one for a lot of people. And that one was for me. And it always has been. I loved making my first reconciliation because we always love the first, right? First communion, first reconciliation, confirmation, and all that. We love that. The first wedding. Just kidding. The only wedding. Okay. So, I was thinking you on that one. Okay, so we love the first one. But then after that, it gets a little scary. Because, we make our first reconciliation when we're quite young. When we haven't done so many awful things. Okay, it's a little bit easier to go into confessional at that time, right? But then life happens, and we start to mess up, and we fall down on our face a few times, and then we have to get back up, and we have to, really just confess these things so that we can not be hindered by those sins in our lives, and be able to overcome and to move out. And so the sacrament of reconciliation is sometimes hard for people to understand. A lot of people think, you really just should be able to just tell Jesus the things you've done wrong and say you're sorry and be able to move on. And why do you have to go? I get asked this question. Why do you have to go to confession? Why does it have to be in a confessional? Why does it have to be a priest? Well, there is a grace, obviously, those of you who use the sacrament, that comes from that sacrament that is just a beautiful gift of mercy. It's a beautiful gift, and it's very real in that moment. So my mom, bless her heart, was the confirmation coordinator when I was a teenager making my confirmation. She's like, stop talking about me. Okay, so I said, are you sure you want to come? Because I'm going to talk about you. Okay, so she was the confirmation coordinator, and her and I had that discussion. It's time for you to go to the confirmation reconciliation service. And I said, oh no. No, thank you. And she said, it's not optional. You're going. I said, no, thank you. You're going. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Well, you don't mess with an Italian mama. You go when she tells you to go. So I finally bit the bullet and I said, okay, I will go. And so the church was divided like this. And there were about as many people in my confirmation class. And there was one priest over here, and there was one priest over here on that side. And our parish priest was over here, and the stranger priest was over there. Which one do you think I went to? The stranger, right? Yeah, because just in case I saw him in the grocery store one day, I didn't want him to be like, oh, I remember those sins. Okay, so I went over there. And then I had a plan, because, we were told at the service, we could sit behind the screen, or we could sit face to face, just like in the confessional. And I was like, oh, I got this. Go to the stranger, and then for double insurance, go behind the screen. Okay? Yeah. She's like, yeah. All right. So I sat down. I'm like, okay, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been like, 6-7 years since my last confession. And I kid you not, the priest took the screen, moved it over, and said, why? What are you feeling so guilty about? And I'm like, I got up and moved over behind the screen again. He's like, it's too late. I've already seen you. I'm like, you can't do that. It's against the law. He was like, which law is that? I'm like, I don't know, Ken. Well, I don't know. It's just gotta be. It's wrong. And he said to me, why? What keeps you away? Why did you stay away so long? What are you feeling so guilty about? And I'm like, well, to be honest, I've messed up a lot. And he said, well, tell me about it. And did I mention I went first? Because I'm one of those people who, you can see where this is going, right? I'm like, gotta get it over with, so I'll go first. So I stayed in there a really long time, because I had a lot of things to say. So I sat there and we talked and we laughed together and I cried. And, somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking, my mom's thinking, probably thinking I'm rebelling in this moment, causing everyone else to have to go to this. And if you've ever tried to run a confirmation and reconciliation service, you want to get them in and out. And they're teenagers, they don't like this stuff, right? So you want to get them in and out. Well, there was no getting in and out because Carrie took up the whole rest of the time with that priest, so everyone had to go over there. And then, I don't know if she was thinking this because she barely remembers this, but I don't know if she was thinking, but I'm thinking she probably thought, she's doing it to make me mad. Because that's what teenagers do. So, afterwards, right, as the reconciliation service ends and people are leaving, I'm sensing that she's maybe not happy with me. Until the moment, I think she saw my eyes, and she saw the transformation that the beauty of that moment, that encounter with Christ had on me. That moment when you go in with all this baggage, all this garbage, and you leave it at the foot of the cross, and you walk away a free person. When you are immersed and bathed in mercy, and you are able to be free and walk out free. It was a beautiful moment for me. And I can't say necessarily that I joyfully ran to the confessional from that point on, but I made sure that I went because I understood that there was great mercy to be found there. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that during this year of mercy. And if you weren't able to take advantage of it during the season of Lent, it's not too late. You can still go. Okay? You're like, oh, this is my time, Easter's here. Oh, shucky darn. No, you can still go. There's still an opportunity, right? I have a friend, her name is Tammy, and we were just the best of friends. And hopefully you all have someone in your life that you live life together. And her and I would raise our kids together, and we'd cook together, and we'd make cookies together, and we'd shop together, and she helped me. She was a midwife or a labor and delivery nurse. She was there when Jaden was born. We were just close friends. And then I watched her go through one of the most challenging, difficult times of her life. She had horrible back problems, and eventually it caused her to lose her job. Then she lost her house, and eventually had to be moved into a small apartment, 2-story apartment. And she had children, grown, they're older children, and they were often away during the day, at school, at work, or whatever, and she was left home alone a lot. And I was a busy mom. Her kids were older, mine were younger, and I was busy running around, and she called a lot. And it got to the point where I wouldn't answer all the time. I started answering maybe every 3rd time she called. And then it would be every 4th time. I wasn't proud of it, but I knew that every time she called, she just wanted to talk to me about how much she was suffering. And it broke my heart, it honestly did, and I prayed for her. But I knew that other than those prayers, and I say other like they're no big deal, but the power of prayer is very powerful, so don't, misunderstood. I'm not dismissing or underestimating prayer, okay? But that got to the point where my busy life kept going and hers stopped. And it got so bad that we had to put a little refrigerator next to her bed because she couldn't be up longer than a minute or so to run to the bathroom and come back. And she couldn't get down the stairs to get her own food, and if she was left alone too long, she would be obviously very hungry. So we put that little refrigerator there. Well, one day, her pain level was just through the roof, and she can't take any medication. She had 7 back surgeries. She gets violently ill whenever she's given any major pain medication. So it was just awful. I watched suffering at its greatest when you're at a 10, a pain level of 10, for day after day, after month after month, after year. And eventually I got further and further away because I didn't know how to help. I didn't know what to do. And I knew that the best thing I could do is never treat her any differently, so that she maintained her respect, my respect for her, and maintained all that. But that was a challenge. So one day I decided that the best thing I could do for her is to go before the Blessed Sacrament in adoration and pray. So I decided to take Jessica, and we went to a church nearby for adoration. It was a service that was going on by Michael John Poirier, who's a Catholic artist. I don't know if you've ever heard that name, but he does the song Companions on a Journey, which is usually in our books. But he was doing a concert in Buffalo, and so we went to that. Now, my friend had called the house, and she was desperate. She said, God, you have abandoned me. You do not care about me. If you did, you wouldn't leave me laying here in this agony and pain all alone. And in a last-ditch moment of desperation, she called my house looking for me, about to beg for me to come over and be with her because she was at that state, in so much pain. Instead, I wasn't home, so she got my husband, who had no idea that things were this bad with her. And she said, is Carrie home? And he said, no, she went to a concert with a friend. Because that's what I told him, it was a concert. I mean, it was adoration, but it was a concert. And I brought my friend and my daughter and her daughter, and we went. So he, that's what he told her, and hung up. And all she heard was, I've been replaced. God has abandoned me, and my best friend has abandoned me. There is no mercy to be found. And she had planned to take her life. She couldn't live in that much pain anymore. So it was about 7:30. When we first got there, we started praying, sang some songs, and it was time for adoration. It was a beautiful moment, and the lights were low, and the monstrance was there, and Jesus was present. It was just gorgeous. And my daughter says to me, Mommy, can I go up front closer and pray? And I had that moment of, because I was kind of afraid that she was going to want to go up and do one of these, look at me, everybody, I'm so holy, and kneel down. And I was like, I didn't want her to distract other people from praying. But eventually I said, what am I going to tell my child? No, she can't get closer to Jesus. So I let her go. And, she was so respectful and so prayerful in that moment. And she went forward and she knelt down. And I thought to myself, well, we'll see how long this will last. She's like 9 years old. I thought she'd be fidgeting. I can't kneel for very long. She probably isn't going to kneel there very long. But she stayed. And she stayed still. 8 o'clock came. And she stayed. Praying. Worshiping. I don't know what was going through her little mind. But I remember just being amazed. And eventually I stopped being a mom and started praying the way I probably should have done from the beginning. What I didn't know, and I didn't find out until later, is that at 8 o'clock, Tammy had decided to take her life. She went to reach over to grab her bottle of pills that she couldn't take for any other reason because they made her so sick, but they were there, and she had planned to take them. And as she went to reach over, she became completely paralyzed from the neck down and could not move. She could look to the side to see that it was 8 o'clock. But she suddenly was filled with this warmth, and it just spread through her whole body, and she couldn't move. And for the rest of the 10 minutes, while my young daughter stayed in front of the Blessed Sacrament, she stayed in complete peace, completely out of pain. And all she thought during that whole time was, God, you do love me. God, you have not abandoned me, and you have visited me with a mercy that I needed more than anything else. I needed to understand that you love me, that you see me, that you are merciful, that even in my pain, you draw me closer to you. He didn't inflict pain on her to drive her away. He allowed this to happen to her to draw her closer. I didn't find out for probably a good month that this happened. All I know is we came home, and a few days later, I had sat down to write a song, because in my moment in front of the Blessed Sacrament, two things happened. I brought my shame before the Lord, that I had kind of abandoned my friend, and I was restored, that the Lord has my back in these moments, that when I can't be a very good friend, when I'm not always the best mother or the best wife or whatever, that His mercy covers those moments and fills in the gap, thank God. Right? It is not by my strength that these things happen. So I wanted to share that song with you, and I'm going to invite Jess up to sing that with me. And Jaden, if you would start the Your Mercy in This World track. Can you do that? And this one did get onto the album because I thought it was a message about us needing to be God's hands and feet and His mercy in the world. So the chorus is there under Show Mercy, and the way that we can show mercy. To be your hands, Lord, to be your feet, to go where you go and give all that I can. And sometimes all that we can in one moment is very little, and the next moment is wonderful and great. So whatever that is, and feel free to join in and sing with us if you would like.